The video opens with a close-up of a young woman in a wedding dress, holding a letter with trembling hands. Tears stream down her face as she reads, her voice breaking. To my dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't be there to walk you down the aisle today. But I promised I'd never leave you, and a father always keeps his promises. The camera pans out to show the entire wedding party and guests in tears as Sophia reads her father's final letter. If this opening touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate the unbreakable bonds of family and love. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful moments that remind us what truly matters in life. Sofia Martinez stood in front of the full-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. The white dress cascaded around her like a waterfall of silk and lace, catching the late afternoon sunlight that streamed through the window. It was perfect, everything was perfect, except for the one thing that mattered most. Her father wouldn't be there to walk her down the aisle. "You look beautiful," her mother Elena whispered, appearing behind her with red-rimmed eyes. "He would have been so proud." Sophia nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Robert Martinez had been gone for 8 months now, taken by the cancer that had slowly consumed him over 2 painful years. He'd fought hard, determined to see his only daughter's wedding day, but the disease had other plans. "I can't do this without him, Mom," Sophia finally managed, her voice barely audible. Elena squeezed her daughter's shoulders. "You can, and you will. Because that's what he raised you to do, to be strong, to keep going, to find joy even in the hardest moments." A knock at the door interrupted them. Sophia's maid of honor, Lily, peeked in, her expression a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to see. The wedding planner just handed me this." She held out a small wooden box with Sophia's name engraved on the top. "She said your dad arranged for it to be delivered today." Sophia's heart stopped. She reached for the box with trembling hands, almost afraid to open it. The wood was smooth under her fingertips, polished oak that smelled faintly of her father's workshop in the garage where he'd spent countless hours crafting furniture and teaching Sophia how to build things with her own hands. "He never told me about this," Elena said, her voice filled with wonder. Sophia carefully lifted the lid. Inside lay a sealed envelope with "For my daughter's wedding day" written in her father's distinctive handwriting, along with a delicate gold bracelet she recognized immediately. It had belonged to her grandmother, a family heirloom that had been missing since her passing years ago. "I thought this was lost," Sophia whispered, lifting the bracelet. A small charm dangled from it, a tiny wooden heart that hadn't been there before. She knew instantly that her father had carved it himself. "There's something else," Lily pointed out. Beneath where the bracelet had lain was a USB drive with "Watch before the ceremony" written on it. 20 minutes later, Sophia sat surrounded by her bridesmaids and mother in the bridal suite, a laptop open before them. Her hands shook so badly that Lily had to insert the drive and press play. The screen flickered to life, and there was her father, sitting in his favorite armchair in their living room. He looked thin but was smiling, his eyes bright with the same warmth and humor that had defined him throughout Sophia's life. The timestamp in the corner showed the video had been recorded just 3 weeks before he passed away. "Hello, my beautiful Sophia," Robert began, his voice strong despite his frail appearance. "If you're watching this, then today is your wedding day, and I'm not there to walk you down the aisle like I always promised." Sophia pressed her hand to her mouth, tears already flowing freely. "I want to start by saying how sorry I am that I couldn't keep that promise. Of all the things I've had to leave behind, not being there for this moment hurts the most." He paused, collecting himself. "But I've never been one to leave a job unfinished, so I've arranged a few things to make sure I'm still part of your special day." Robert shifted in his chair, wincing slightly before his smile returned. "First, the bracelet. Your grandmother wanted you to have it on your wedding day. I added the wooden heart, not my finest work, I'll admit, but I carved it from the oak tree we planted in the backyard when you were 5. Remember how you said it would grow as you grew? Well, part of it will be with you today. Sophia clutched the bracelet tightly, remembering the day they'd planted that tree together, her tiny hands patting the soil while her father explained how to care for it. Now, about walking you down the aisle, Robert continued. I've asked your Uncle David to stand in for me. He's not as handsome or charming, of course, Robert winked, and despite everything, Sophia laughed through her tears. But he loves you almost as much as I do, and he promised to take good care of you today. The video continued as Robert shared memories and advice, speaking directly to the daughter he knew he wouldn't see marry. He talked about the day Sophia was born, how terrified he'd been as a young single father after her mother had left them when Sophia was just 2 years old. He spoke of sleepless nights, learning to braid hair, attending dance recitals, and bandaging scraped knees. Being your dad has been the greatest privilege of my life, he said, his eyes glistening. And while I won't be there physically today, I want you to know that I'll be watching. I'll be in the rustle of your dress, in the sunlight on your face, in every happy tear and every burst of laughter. By now, everyone in the room was crying openly. Elena had her arm around Sophia, both women leaning into each other for support. I have one last gift for you, Robert said. In the envelope, you'll find a letter. Read it when you're alone, before you walk down the aisle. And there's something else, something I've arranged with the help of your fiancé and the wedding planner. Just know that I found a way to keep my promise after all. He leaned closer to the camera, his face filling the screen. I love you, my brave, beautiful girl. I've loved you from your first breath, and I'll love you long after my last. Now go get married, be happy, and live the extraordinary life you deserve. The screen went dark, leaving the room in silence broken only by quiet sobs. Sophia clutched the envelope to her chest, not ready to open it yet. I need a moment alone, she whispered. Once the room had cleared, she carefully broke the seal on the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. My dearest Sophia, it began. By the time you read this, I'll have been gone for some time, and you'll have learned to live in a world without me in it. I know it hasn't been easy for me to leave you either. But today isn't about grief or absence. Today is about love and beginnings, and I refuse to let my absence overshadow your joy. I've watched you grow from a tiny, fierce little girl who insisted on climbing the tallest trees into a woman of such strength and compassion that it takes my breath away. When your mother left, I was terrified I wouldn't be enough for you. But you made it easy to be your father. You filled our home with laughter even on the darkest days. You gave me purpose when I felt lost. You taught me patience, wonder, and unconditional love. I know you found those same qualities in Michael. I've seen how he looks at you, the same way I looked at your mother once, and the same way I've looked at you every day of your life, with awe and gratitude for the miracle of your existence. Now, about my final gift. When you walk down the aisle today, look down at the path before you. The wedding planner knows what to do. And remember what I always told you, I may not always be beside you, but I will always, always be beneath your feet, supporting every step you take. All my love, now and forever, Dad. Sophia read the letter twice more, her tears falling onto the paper. She carefully folded it and tucked it into a hidden pocket that her mother had sewn into her dress specifically for this purpose. Then she opened the door to let everyone back in. It's time, the wedding planner said gently. Uncle David was waiting at the entrance to the garden where the ceremony would take place. He looked nervous but determined, dressed in a suit almost identical to the one Robert had picked out months ago when they still believed he would beat the cancer. You look just like him, Sophia said, adjusting his tie the way she used to do for her father. David's eyes welled up. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. He offered his arm. Ready? Sophia nodded, then remembered her father's letter. Wait. He said to look at the path. As they approached the entrance to the aisle, Sophia gasped. The path that led to the altar was lined not with the rose petals she had expected, but with hundreds of tiny wooden hearts, identical to the one on her bracelet, each one hand-carved by her father during his final months. He worked on them every day, David explained quietly. Even in the hospital. Said he wanted to make sure he could still walk you down the aisle, one way or another. The music began, and as Sophia took her first step onto the path, she felt a profound sense of her father's presence. Each wooden heart she stepped over represented hours of her father's time, his love, his determination to be part of this day despite everything. Halfway down the aisle, a video began to play on a screen set up beside the altar. It showed Robert, dressed in his suit, walking slowly down an aisle identical to this one, filmed in the same garden months earlier when he still had the strength. The video had been perfectly timed so that as Sophia and David walked in real time, Robert walked alongside them on the screen, matching their pace exactly. Guests watched in stunned silence, tears flowing freely as they witnessed Robert Martinez keeping his promise to his daughter in the most extraordinary way. When they reached the altar, the video showed Robert kissing Sophia's cheek before placing her hand in Michael's. David did the same in perfect synchronization, completing the illusion that somehow, impossibly, Robert was there after all. "Who gives this woman to be married?" the officiant asked, his own voice thick with emotion. "I do," came Robert's voice from the video, at the exact same moment that David said, "Her father and I do." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Michael squeezed Sophia's hands, his face reflecting all the love and wonder that her father had described in his letter. The ceremony continued, beautiful in its simplicity and profound in its emotion. When it came time for the vows, Sophia added a line that hadn't been in the original script. "I promise to love you with the same unwavering devotion that my father showed me, completely, creatively, and without reservation, in presence and in absence, for all the days of our lives." At the reception later, Sophia carried one of the wooden hearts from the aisle, turning it over and over in her hand like a talisman. Elena sat beside her, watching the guests dance under strings of twinkling lights. "He spent months planning all of this," Elena said. "Even when he was in so much pain, he'd insist on working on those hearts. The nurses at the hospice would bring him wood and his carving tools. They said they'd never seen anything like it." "That was Dad," Sophia said softly. "Always thinking of others, always finding a way to show his love." "He worried so much about leaving you," Elena continued. "Not just about missing the wedding, but about leaving you without a parent. He didn't want you to feel abandoned again, like when your birth mother left." Sophia had long ago made peace with her birth mother's absence. The woman who had found herself unable to handle motherhood had given Sophia the gift of a father who had poured his entire heart into raising her. "I never felt abandoned by him," Sophia said firmly. "Not even now. Look at all he did to make sure I knew he was still with me." Michael joined them, sliding into the seat next to his new wife. "Your dad made me promise something," he said, taking her hand. "The day he told me about all his plans for the wedding, he made me swear that we would live our lives fully, that we wouldn't let grief dim our joy. He said the best way to honor him was to be happy." Sophia leaned her head against Michael's shoulder. "He was right. He always was." As the evening progressed, guests came to share their own memories of Robert, his kindness, his humor, his unwavering devotion to his daughter. Each story was a thread in the tapestry of a life well lived, a man who had faced single parenthood, financial struggles, and ultimately terminal illness with grace and determination. When it was time for the father-daughter dance, Sophia had planned to skip it, but the wedding planner guided her to the center of the dance floor. The lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated a single wooden heart placed in the middle of the floor. The music began, "What a Wonderful World," her father's favorite song, and the screen lit up once more. This time, it showed Robert standing in their living room, arms outstretched as if holding a dance partner. "May I have this dance?" his recorded voice asked. Sophia stepped into the spotlight and began to dance alone, following her father's movements on the screen. After a few moments, the video changed to show home movies of Robert dancing with Sophia throughout her life, twirling her as a giggling toddler in their kitchen, teaching her to waltz before her first school dance, swaying with her at her high school graduation party. One by one, the other fathers and daughters at the reception joined them on the dance floor, surrounding Sophia in a circle of love and support, ensuring she didn't dance alone. As the song ended, the video returned to Robert in the living room. He blew a kiss toward the camera and said, "I'll love you forever, my Sophia. Now it's time for you to dance with your husband." Michael stepped forward, taking Sophia in his arms as a new song began. Over his shoulder, Sophia could see her mother and Uncle David embracing, both watching her with pride and love. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Sophia and Michael walked through the garden where they had exchanged their vows. She bent down and gathered a handful of the wooden hearts from the aisle. "I want to keep these," she said. "To remember today." "Your dad thought of that too," Michael replied. "There's a glass jar waiting at our new house, with instructions to fill it with these hearts and keep it somewhere we'll see it every day." Sophia laughed through fresh tears. "Of course he did. He thought of everything." "Not everything," Michael said mysteriously. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "He gave this to me the last time I visited him in the hospital. Made me promise not to tell you about it until after the wedding." Sophia opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a key and a note in her father's handwriting, for the cabin at Lake Harmony. "It's yours now. Go there when you need to feel close to me." The cabin had been Robert's sanctuary, a small place in the mountains where he'd taken Sophia fishing and hiking throughout her childhood. He'd built much of it himself, pouring his heart into every beam and board. Sophia had assumed it would be sold to cover his medical bills. "He paid it off before he got sick," Michael explained. "Said he wanted to leave you something tangible, a place where our children could learn about their grandfather." Sophia clutched the key, overwhelmed by this final gesture. Her father, even while facing his own mortality, had been thinking generations ahead, creating connections to a future he would never see. The next morning, before leaving for their honeymoon, Sophia and Michael visited Robert's grave. She placed one of the wooden hearts on the headstone along with her bouquet. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered. "For everything. For raising me, for loving me, for finding a way to be part of the most important day of my life even when you couldn't be there in person." A warm breeze rustled through the cemetery, catching her veil and lifting it gently around her. Sophia smiled, remembering her father's words from the video, "I'll be in the rustle of your dress, in the sunlight on your face." "He's still here," Michael said softly, putting his arm around her shoulders. "I know," Sophia replied. "He always will be." As they turned to leave, Sophia noticed something she hadn't seen before, a small oak sapling planted near her father's grave, barely taller than the headstone itself. Attached to one of its slender branches was a wooden tag with words burned into it, "For Sophia and Michael's children to watch grow. Love, Grandpa Robert." Even now, he was still planting trees for future generations, still finding ways to show his love would continue growing long after he was gone. Sophia touched the